The point is, though, that I'd allowed that one incident on whatever level to prejudice my view of strangers who had done nothing to me. And now, even a year later, I'm still a bit cautious. When you think about it, I've lived in Shepherd's Bush for 7.5 years. That's about 3,000 days. And only once has a hoodie directly interfered in my life. 1 in 3,000. Although, to be fair, I only got bothered once that day, so maybe it's fair to say it's 1 in 72,000 hours. In fact, the whole thing was over in less than a minute. So if you think about it, it's 1 in 4.32 million minutes. Isn't it strange to be so concerned and influenced by something that happens once in 4 million times? The problem's not as big as our imaginations might let us think. The biggest crime I've actually ever fallen victim to was when I was swindled out of a £1,000 deposit on a flat by a bogus estate agent who, as it happened, was a middle-aged bald man in a suit and tie. Do I fear that demographic? No. I don't, even though middle-aged men in suits and ties have done much more damage to our economy in recent years than young people. Even though middle-aged men in suits and ties sent us to an arguably illegal war in Iraq, it's still those young people that, in my mind, are the criminals. Jack Vobert certainly agrees with me on this one.
Over the last 30 or 40 years, the vast majority of moral panics have been about young, working-class people. And it's no surprise that the moral panic about hoodies was supported by the middle class and by the press. Working class youngsters are always the easiest targets to pick on because they have very little power. Also, I think what it does, it helps obscure the crimes of the powerful.
And this has been going on for a long time. As he says, back through the 70s and the 60s, we had football hooligans, the mods and the rockers. Is there any evidence that young people are getting more criminal or violent than they used to be?
I got interested in the whole issue of moral panics because I was one of those mods that went down to Brighton in the 1960s. So, I was astounded at the time about the media panic there was about mods and rockers.
You hated those rockers, though, didn't you?
No, in fact, that's one of the things about it. To some extent, that division between mods and rockers was a media creation.
Yeah.
Because, my best mate was a rocker. When my scooter was laid up, I used to borrow his motorbike and vice versa,
It's beautiful, isn't it? Mods and rockers coming together. And Jack actually said that since the 1990s, people don't realise that crime has actually fallen by 42%, despite the fact the Labour government introduced loads more crimes onto the statute book. So why are we so keen to blame the young? But there's this feeling, despite the facts of the contrary, that each generation of youngsters is worse than the last. But if that was truly the case, wouldn't the world be in anarchy now? Isn't it the case that each generation of teenagers is broadly the same? A bit bored, a bit frustrated maybe by the fact there's nothing to do, that they have no power, annoyed by the way that adults treat them. Teenagers, if you're listening to Radio 4, what are you doing? If your parents are telling you that things were different in their day, then try and take a sneak at their teenage diaries. This is genuinely my diary that I wrote as a teenager, the 18th of June 1982. This is how angry I am. Sod off, world. Go on, bugger off. You all hate me, and gradually I'm beginning to hate all you. I don't like any of my so-called friends. My family doesn't understand me. They don't listen to anything I say, and they call me childish, and then they wonder why I get violent. My mum is pathetic. She is so immature. But so are all adults when you think about it. She says things like, "Isn't war stupid?" And it seems so false and so silly that it makes me mad. Adults are immature. They have to rule everything like little kids. They, having the strength, always win. But what is the point of telling kids to respect adults and not argue with them when they too will be adults one day and so will not have to respect other adults, so the training is a waste of time? Which, if you manage to follow that, that is genius. The whole fabric of society gets on my nerves. All of it, the whole fabric. And then I think you can see what a nice life I was actually having despite this anger. From the example I choose of the worst thing in society, the father and mother love each other and their 2 kids and give them a good upbringing, and all is happy apart from the occasional argument between parents and children. But these are kept quiet, as the parents do not want people to think whatever they will think. All must look good, and if anything looks awfully bad, the adults tut quietly to themselves. That's what I hate about society mainly. Adults who love their children tutting to themselves. Isn't it stupid? If I think differently when I'm older, it will merely be because I have fallen into the trap of power for adults. Do we forget how annoying it was to be treated like second-class citizens? Or do we feel that we've been through it, so it's only fair that the next generation of kids do too? And reading through my diary, it becomes clear that I was actually much more moralistic than I am now. I want you to prepare yourselves, because some of the things you hear are going to challenge everything you believe about society. I am anti-war. Not pro-war like you mean. That means I'm actually against war. That's what that means. I think Britain should get rid of all our armies and weapons. It would show the rest of the world we were serious about disarming. It would do that, wouldn't it? It would show a level of seriousness about the whole disarmament issue, just to completely unilaterally disarm. I know what you're thinking. You go, well, surely we'd get attacked, people, would it be a war? I've thought of that. I'm not an idiot. No one would invade us, as other countries would intervene. So obviously all the other countries have to keep their weapons for that system to work. Maybe I'm a bit misguided there, but at least I was trying, at least I cared about those things, because I think young people do. Yet this prejudice against the young continues unchecked. I went down to Shepherd's Bush Green, the same place where my iPhone had been stolen just a year earlier, to talk to people wearing hooded tops to see what they had to say for themselves. What do you think it is that scares people about hoodies?
I don't think it's the hoodies that scare them. I think it's the gangs they're in, and they just happen to be wearing hoodies this year. Next year, it could be anything else, you know.
I can understand why they get intimidated, but I don't know, people take it over the top.
Why don't they look back to their young days?
Why have you chosen to wear a hoodie?
It's comfortable, I like it.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I wear a hoodie?
Do you feel that young people are getting, like, unfairly judged in a way for being young by older people because of that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like me judging an old person with a stick. Are they really going to chase me and beat me with the stick? No.
If you're wearing a hoodie, does that make you want to do bad stuff? Or no. So it doesn't seem to, like, offer much protection or even, like, hide you particularly well.
Not really.
No.
There's too many cameras anyway. Yeah.
Well, I think probably young people are nicer than old people perceive them to be, right? Yeah. So have you guys done anything that's good for other people recently?
We have to do in school community service, help people around their local area and stuff. We do that. I wore a hoodie when I did that. Yeah. It's not a problem. Yeah.
Did you had to do it though? Did you want to do it?
No, you didn't have to do it. Yeah, it was a choice. If you wanted it to go on your CV, and I thought, why not? It's not really a problem. Just because the media portrays us in a bad way doesn't mean we're all like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know David Cameron said that you should hug a hoodie? You want to get hugged by the Prime Minister?
What's the point of hugging a hoodie? Does that mean that hoodies are respected or something?
Yeah.
So what does it mean?
Yeah, David Cameron. You're patronising the kids. Not like me, I'm their friend. It was weird because even though I'd already kind of got to the understanding that our young people were unfairly represented and patronised by the media, I was really impressed with all the people we'd spoken to. They'd been chosen at random merely because of what they were wearing, and yet all of them were very polite and eloquent, really nice kids. But why should I have been surprised that 15-year-olds had great stuff to say on this or any subject? The truth is, when we're 15, in many ways, you're cleverer than you're ever going to be. You're learning stuff at school every day. Your brain hasn't yet started to degrade and stop working like that of say, a 43-year-old. I'm not the only person to have noticed this injustice and age-related apartheid. This month in Harwich, in Essex, the local young people are starting up a hoodie festival devoted only to the hoodie, which is incredible. To find out what that's about, I talked to the festival coordinator, Libby Miller. So you are part of the Harwich-inspired youth action.
Yes, I am. I'm the coordinator for the group.
Cool. And is it deliberately got the acronym HIGHER?
Yeah,
That's
that
good.
was something one of the young people came up with.
I like it. It's very friendly. So can you tell us a little bit about the Hoodie Festival and why it's happening?
The main thing is to get younger people and older people, mixed generations, but all wearing their hoodies.
Right.
Just to kind of say, look, we're not bad, we're not thugs. We can all do this, and we're also going to try and get the police and other local organisations wearing hoodies so we can get some photographs of that.
Really want to see that. I've got to see a policeman wearing a hoodie. I hope they kind of get a big helmet on the top. Fern Lovett is one of the terrifying hoodies behind this project. So you are a hoodie wearer, Fern, is that correct?
Yeah.
Have you had any prejudice as a result of wearing a hoodie yourself?
Yeah, well, it seems like people cross over the road and they're, like, afraid to talk to you more if you're wearing a hoodie.
You don't sound very frightening to me on the phone.
No.
How old are you?
16.
So you're a 16-year-old young woman?
Yeah.
Are you heavily built? Could you look like you could punch someone?
No, not really.
Do you think that young people generally are more helpful than they're portrayed in the media?
Yeah, I think they are.
What have you done to help anyone recently?
I do dog walking and stuff for old people. And
Oh, well, that's good. I thought I'd catch you out, but that's quite good. As long as they've not asked you to walk the dogs.
Yeah.
If you've just taken the dogs from old people, that's why you're getting this reputation.
No,
Got to do
I
it.
haven't taken them from old people.
Okay, well, that's good. There you go. That's the hoodie that you are all terrified of. Good job she wasn't heavily built, wasn't it? So if you really want to stop young people wearing hoodies, then the answer isn't to try and outlaw hoodies. If you want to stop young people wearing hoodies, then all you need to do is to get all old people to wear hoodies. Jeans were universally cool until Jeremy Clarkson started to wear them. If every Radio 4 listener was to put on a hoodie, believe me, in a very short period of time, you'd find very few kids wanting to wear them. There is such an article as a Radio 4 hoodie. BBC Radio 4 written on the back. These are only for promotional purposes at the moment, but if they could sell them, and if you were all to purchase one, not only would we destroy the edgy image of the hoodie wearer, but also we'd raise valuable funds for the BBC. By my reckoning, if all of the 10.4 million people who listen to Radio 4 each week were to buy a Radio 4 hoodie at £20 a pop, the BBC would make about £156 million, which would keep Radio 4 running at no cost to the licence payer for nearly 2 years. Or pay Graham Norton's wages for a fortnight. But the BBC won't do that because they're pussies and scared of contravening the BBC Charter, which, to be honest, isn't worth wiping your nose on. What do you want? A charter upholding correct behaviour or £156 million? You are idiots, the BBC Directors Board. Please let me be on the telly. I just want to be on the telly. So why don't you, at home, go out and make your own Radio 4 hoodies like these two cool dudes?
Yes, look, I've decorated my hoodie with fabric paints to demonstrate my love for both the Archers and you and yours. It's whack.
And I have drawn a picture on mine of what I imagine the panel of the moral maze might look like. They are so fly. And to get the ball rolling, I'm putting on this Radio 4 hoodie myself. While I'm doing that, Emma is going to go out with one free Radio 4 hoodie and give it to the coolest person in our audience of misfits and nerds. Who's it going to be, Emma?
Just so I'm quite clear, you're asking me to find a cool person in a Radio 4 comedy?
No, Emma, you are looking for the coolest person.
There's a girl in a sort of quite cool hat back here. You look quite cool. What do you do?
I study neuroscience.
Oh, she's studying neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
Do you want me to move on, Richard, or shall I?
Give it to her.
Yeah, go on, here you go.
Wear that. Will you wear that out in the streets?
That.
Take that out. Look, it's...
She's going to wear it to lectures.
Good. Publicising Radio 4 amongst the young. Thank you. The hoodie is not evil. It's a functional, warm item of clothing which only the mildest of villains would think was a disguise. More importantly, we should look at our young people with a less judgmental eye and realise that only a tiny minority are criminal tearaways. The vast majority of young people are harmless, self-obsessed, self-conscious idiots who take themselves a bit seriously and who are muddling through as best they can. Just like you were when you were a teenager. They're less racist than their grandparents were. They're less likely to put people in gas chambers than their great-grandparents were. Don't envy the young their youth. They'll only waste it like you did. Celebrate them and then try to embarrass them by wearing stuff that they like, but with a Radio 4 logo on it. Thanks for listening. Good night.
You have been listening to Richard Herring's Objective, written by and starring Richard Herring with me, TV's Emma Kennedy, was produced by Talisha Galani.
Next week, Richard will be looking at the St George's